Some shows talk about one team. Other shows barely talk sports. This show will talk Packers, Brewers, and Bucks. Every day. It's Wisconsin Sports Daily with Steve Sparky Pfeiffer on the Wisconsin Sports Radio Network.
Welcome in. How are we doing here today on what are we at? Tuesday, I think is where we are at today. Tuesday? Yeah, Tuesday. All right. We're on the right day. That's at least positive. Charlie Usen over there. Warm weather ahead for a couple of days here in southeastern Wisconsin. I would assume around the rest of the state as well. Lots to get into on today's show. Obviously, Brian Gutekunst talked today, so we'll talk about that a little bit. Eric Hasseltine, voice of the Memphis Grizzlies. He will join us coming up today at 2:20. If you've never heard Eric Hasseltine on this show, you will love Eric Hasseltine, because he just is very blunt and honest about everything in life. And also, he's a big-time Packers fan, even though he is a Grizzlies play-by-play announcer. So we may talk a little Packers football if we have time. But we're getting him on to talk about Taylor Jenkins, as reports are out that the Bucs met with Taylor Jenkins in Memphis and plan on having another meeting. Now, the first meeting, I think, was an exploratory meeting to see kind of if they're on the same page of how to kind of do things. They have not gotten into the details per, I believe it was Eric Name of The Athletic, about money and years and all that stuff. The nitty-gritty has not happened, but they had the initial conversation amongst them. So we'll talk to Eric Hasseltine about Taylor Jenkins and what went wrong in Memphis, what went right in Memphis. Does Ja Morant hate Taylor Jenkins as much as some people think Ja Morant may hate Taylor Jenkins? And does Taylor Jenkins potentially hate Ja Morant? So that all is a big deal because Memphis, it sounds like, may be open to moving on from Ja Morant, and Giannis wants another star to play with potentially to stay in Milwaukee. So that's very vital that we know the answers to both of those questions. So we'll talk to Eric Hasseltine about that coming up in the second segment of today's show. Charlie Sounds today moving around today because we are only on till 4:30, and then it's a leadoff show with Tommy Wirtz getting you ready for Brewers and Tigers. First pitch around 5:40 or so, somewhere in that area. So he'll get you ready for that one. You'll hear from Pat Murphy, starting lineups, anything that happens inside the clubhouse before the game, meeting with the press. You'll hear all that stuff coming up today, again, 4:30 to 5:30. Then let's talk about the crew at 3 o'clock. Tommy Wirtz knew what we were doing on today's show because I told him this morning as he and I were going back and forth on this topic and asked Paul Wagner, former Brewers pitcher, the question that we're going to ask at 3 o'clock. Paul Wagner gave his answer, which is wrong, but we'll talk about Paul Wagner's answer as well to that question at 3 o'clock. Things Sparky missed moves up to 3:40 today. More talk of Anthony Richardson and the Green Bay Packers after Chris Ballard's comments today. So we'll get into that. We'll talk about Brian Gutekunst's many thoughts in today's press conference at 4 o'clock, Green and Gold Update. And then Jeff Rieger from 97.1 The Ticket will join us coming up at 4:20. Talk about the Tigers-Brewers series coming up, but mostly you want to talk to him about the Lions, the offseason, their draft plans coming into the draft coming up Thursday, Friday, and Saturday. And speaking of Thursday, Friday, and Saturday, Green Bay obviously doesn't have a first-round pick this year, but we'll be covering picks in round 2 and 3. You can get all the analysis of both picks coming up Friday night starting at 6 o'clock with the Green Bay Football Postgame Show brought to you by Steam Fitters, Local 601, featuring that guy over there, Charlie Usen, and myself right here on the Wisconsin Sports Radio Network. So keep it tuned here coming up on Friday night. People are like, are you having a show on Thursday? Packers don't have a pick on Thursday. And I don't believe they have enough to get back into the first round on Thursday. So no, we're just going to have a show coming up on Friday night. I want to start off first talking a little bit about Brian Gutekunst and what he had to say earlier today. And I heard Tommy Wirtz play some clips on the Mason Crosby show earlier. And I had told Charlie what I wanted to talk about. So we come in here because Tommy, he's the man. He just cuts up all these clips for us on Goody and was awesome. Nobody asked him to do it, just did it on his own to help out the team. The topics that I wanted to talk about, Tommy did not clip either of the answers.
I got one of them, so one of them's in that folder.
Yeah, thank you. But and I just told Charlie, I said, that's how my brain works. It just works differently than every other human brain, I'm convinced, at this point. Which, again, It's fine. Not a big deal. We move on. But I was reading the quotes, or some of the quotes, that were being posted on X by Ryan Wood, of course, who covers the Green Bay Packers for the Milwaukee Journal-Sentinel and the Green Bay Press-Gazette. And I saw something that we literally talked about yesterday. If you remember on yesterday's show, I don't remember what hour it was, 4 o'clock hour, I think, on our Green No Gold update, we talked about Albert Breer. And Albert Breer, the NFL insider for Sports Illustrated, had his needs for every single team in the National Football League and what they may be looking at. And as we went through and we looked at this, I could not believe that cornerback was not listed anywhere on his best needs available. Defensive line, offensive guard, offensive tackle, like all of those were listed, but nothing to be said about cornerback. Now, I don't know if Ryan Wood was listening to the show yesterday and wanted to see whether or not Goody agreed with that at the end of the day, because he has been very, very complimentary of Keyshawn Nixon. He's been very complimentary of the secondary in general and all of that. Charlie, you must have the clip over there because I don't see it on my side. Okay, so this is him talking about the cornerback position, correct?
Yep.
Here we go.
We are going to add numbers there. I do feel, obviously bringing in Benjamin, along with Keyshawn and Carrington, you got 3 guys there that have seen significant snaps in their career, and I feel good about those guys going out and playing. Some of our young guys, I'm interested to see with our new coaching staff how they adapt to what we're going to be ask them to do. But we do need to add some numbers there. I think that's probably our group from a numbers perspective that, as we sit here today, we're going to need to add the most numbers. So we'll see how that goes.
All right. Okay, Goody. All right. Yes, sorry. Now we're cooking. Now we're saying what I wanted to hear. Thank the Lord that he said that. Thank the Lord. Because that means he can be as complimentary as he wants to the guys on his roster, which I understand. Why make a room angry at you, right? Hey, you're doing good. They're trying hard, whatever. But I want to have the most players there. That room is where I want to add more competition to. Now, if I'm Keyshawn Nixon, all right, man, bring it on. Let's see what you got. If I'm Carrington Valentine, I'm going to work even harder to make sure they can't take my job. Right? That's how I have to look at it. If I'm in that room already, now he's talking about adding a bunch more guys to come in and try and take my job. But as a Packers fan, I get excited. Now, Goody was also asked about the offensive line as well. That clip we don't have, right? We do have it?
I have that one too.
Oh, man, Charlie is really good. Okay, Charlie Houston. Goody talking about the Packers offensive line, because, again, this is something where Albert Breer of SI said, hey, man, guard and tackle are 2 of the needs here that they may look to address in the draft. And we've talked about them taking a potential guard to compete with Belton at that right guard position.
I feel really good about it. I mean, obviously, we got a couple guys coming off injury. Zach's coming off an injury and Jacob's coming off an injury. But, I really like our starting 5. And then, I thought, Jacob did a really good job in that last game at center. So I feel really good about his ability. And we're going to get Glover back as well. Dominic Jennings. And Kennard, we brought Kennard back. So I feel really good about, our whole group and the competition that's in that room. We're always going to try to look to add, to the offensive line. There's only so many big guys in the world that can play at a high level. So, but no, I feel good about it.
The question we have is this. Do you agree with both of Goody's takes? His take on the cornerback position and then his take on the offensive line position. I'm willing to bet you there are some people that just heard him name people on the offensive line, and there are people listening right now, right? Driving around in your car, listening to the game in Wausau, or listening on the WISportsradio.com, streaming us, or watching us on YouTube and X at WI Sports Radio. And if you're watching on YouTube, like and subscribe to all of our videos, please. But if you're doing that, you're probably going, Jacob, who? Who is Jacob? Like, I'm supposed to know some Jacob guy. Yes, it's Monk, but yeah, but Jacob, who the hell is Jacob? I don't know. Donovan Jennings, I think I saw him in training camp maybe last year. I don't know.
That's the only time he played last year.
I mean, so there are some people like Sparky. I don't even know who these guys are to even tell you if I agree with whether or not they're good depth because we haven't barely seen them play at this point. Nicolay Law talking text line 414-677-1250, 414-677-1250. You can also comment, obviously, in the YouTube and X chat right there, our dugout chat, as well at WI Sports Radio. I love the cornerback take. I'm in. And as I said before, you have to protect your players to a certain degree that you have on the roster because, you don't want fallout and so forth from it. But having said that, me personally, I would love to see another guard and another tackle that can come in and compete with Belton at right guard and offer some type of legitimate protection for the future behind Jordan Morgan, potentially. Now, that does not mean they have to take a left tackle in the second round. Bakhtiari was a 4th-round pick. So you don't have to go take a tackle there in the 2nd or the 3rd round. You could wait to day 3, and with the development skills that we've seen in Green Bay over the course of time, coach a guy up to be ready to step in and play. Now, I'm not guaranteeing you that they're going to be, all-pro David Bakhtiari at that level if you draft him in the 4th or 5th round. Yeah. Right, I'm not going to say that, but I will say that you could still get probably some competition there.
You could get a Rasheed Walker.
Yes.
You could get that type of player.
Correct. As we talked about before, there's no guarantee this Jordan Morgan thing is going to work out. And I feel like the Packers coaching staff and the Packers front office, very, very confident that they know what they've got, and they're very happy with what they've got in Jordan Morgan, and probably aren't that concerned that Jordan Morgan is going to screw this up at left tackle. To which I say, I hope you're right, because everywhere else he's played in the line hasn't been all the best. So hopefully he is a left tackle only, maybe. Bakhtiari wasn't moving positions. He was at left tackle. They weren't playing him at guard. They go, hey, David, can you play center this week? No. Can you imagine the expletive that would come out of his mouth if they asked him to play center?
Exactly.
Get out of here. I'm not playing center. I'm a damn good left tackle. Leave me alone. That's what we're talking about at this point. I cannot wait for this draft to get here on Friday, y'all. I am so excited. We got a Green Bay draft guide that we got. And again, it's Jacob Morley. He contributes to it. It's Ross Uglum. It's Jacob Westendorf. They all do. It's like $12. And if you go on like Morley's X account or whatever, I think he's got it pinned there. And you can go on there and purchase it. It comes right to your email. I opened that up today, and we'll be using that coming up on Friday night. And it's made for Packer fans. Like all the relative athletic scores that they like at every position, the height and weight that they like at every position. And then they put the group of players into all the position groups that fit into it. Like you can go get anybody else's draft guide. And I'm not saying you shouldn't get more than one. I've had up to 4 or 5 draft guides on a given year when I was in my heyday doing this. So, I mean, that's completely fine, contrast and compare and all of that. But that you go through and you look at that, you just get excited. Like there is going to be a good group of players sitting there at 52. There is. And the whole idea of will they move back? We know he loves picks. Now, he also mentioned, we'll play this coming up at 4:00 on our Green and Gold update, about the possibility of moving up, that they have potentially 10 picks in 2027. Once they get their picks back for losing guys in free agency, they're not all available to be traded right now. But once they get those picks back for losing guys, they have picks they can trade for 2027 to move up in round 2 or move up in round 3 or whatever they want to do if they really love somebody, want to go get somebody.
Which I think they should very deeply be considering. This is a draft where, like we heard some people on the text line talk about yesterday, it's deep in a lot of positions that this Packers team needs to upgrade.
Let me ask you a question.
Sure.
If they call you up, I don't know who they is. Say it's the Chiefs. Let's say it's Kansas City.
Okay.
Kansas City calls you up. You're on the clock. It's 52. Call comes in. Hey, man, we really, really want 52. But we don't really want to have to give up a bunch of picks in order to get it. We'll give you our 1 in 27 for 52 right now. It's Kansas City.
No, because I think they're going to end up being better next year than they were this year.
But you don't have a first-round pick?
You don't. But
I do it in a heartbeat.
But at the same time, you need players this year too. You need an impact player at corner at some place. You need an impact player at defensive tackle. You need an impact player at guard potentially if injuries happen again. Like you need those types of players now too. You can't wait another year, in my opinion. You're starting to see guys start to take next steps. You can't stunt those next steps by avoiding taking players that could elevate them.
I wouldn't think twice about it. I'd be done. See ya. Bye. I'll take one next year. No question. And then I've got all these other picks in 27. They're saying that 27 class next year is going to be really, really good. Like significantly better than this 26 class. That's their early forecast. Just like this lottery for the NBA.
It's really strong.
Last year, everybody said this lottery was going to be star-studded in the NBA lottery, and it's lived up to expectations. So we'll see.
It's different in my mind. In the NBA, I think you really can just do best player available and add that to a team, and I think that does help most teams out. In the NFL, I think next year you're going to see a draft that's going to be heavy in quarterback. You're going to see a draft that's heavy in wide receiver, and if the Packers go and take a wide receiver this year at some point, like you think they might, and a lot of people think they might, then you don't really need a player at that position. It's going to be heavy at positions that I think that aren't necessarily the impact ones, whereas this year you got positions that, yes, it's not a star-studded, but it's more impact for the Packers.
All right, let's see here. 262 says, Goody said his roster has like 73 players. I'd be surprised if anyone knows more than 30 of them. Who the heck are all these guys? Ziggy, yeah, that's what we get to draft guys. We go and read the experts and what they say and what are their what are the player comps and so forth. But this much I do know. There are certain positions, if they take at 52, the fan base is going to lose their mind. Promise you. Just like last year, they could have drafted Charlie using a wide receiver in the first round.
As long
and
as
everybody would have screamed and yelled and said, whoa, what a pick. I love that Charlie. Why? Because it was a wide receiver, man. Right? I mean, so some of us are going to be excited just because of the position. And then we'll go on YouTube and watch highlights and try to figure the rest of it out after we take them. And then there's going to be other positions that are going to be taken. And you're going to be like, why do we need that? Right? If they take a tight end at 52, even if it's a really good tight end, a lot of the fans are going to be like, what a dumb pick. What are we doing? Why are we doing that
maybe
for?
A position that they need, like linebacker. If they take a linebacker at 52, people are going to be mad, even though it's a position that the Packers could potentially need in this draft.
So we'll talk about all of that. I'm telling you, Friday night, it is going to be fun. We know, and I'm being asked by Ziggy, giving ideas of locations of where we're going to be. No, we are not on location. The major reason we are not on location is because Charlie and I will be in studio, and there is no breaks for Charlie and I on Friday. It's 2 to 5 is Wisconsin Sports Daily. 5 to 6, Charlie and I are doing the leadoff show. 6 to 9:30 is going to be the Green Bay Football Draft Show, brought to you by Steam Fitters Local 601. Charlie and I doing that show too. And then 9:30 to 11 is going to be Tim Allen and myself reunited one more time to do the Potawatomi Sportsbook post-game show after the Brewers game. So there is no moments where we could potentially break away to get to said location to do a remote show, and then another break for me to get back here to do the post-game show with Tim. So unfortunately, we will not be out for the draft show. Most seasons, we will be out for the draft show, especially if it's a first round selection, but that won't be for a couple more years. Charlie Houston there, Steve Sparky Fiver here. Eric Hasseltine, voice on the Memphis Grizzlies, talk about all about Taylor Jenkins, former Grizzlies head coach who the Bucks officials met with. He is coming up next. Looking forward to hearing his thoughts on that. Don't forget to bring your cravings. Wendy's will bring the rewards. Download the Wendy's app today and start earning rewards. Wendy's rewards are fast, free, and full of flavor. Get 200 bonus reward points and a free 10-piece nugs just for signing up. Earn points on every order and trade them for fries, burgers, and more. Earn free eats faster than you can say fresh, never frozen. Loyalty has never tasted so good. Wisconsin Sports Daily, live from the Wisconsin Sports Radio Network studios, powered by the Potawatomi Sportsbook. Sparky here. Welcome back. It is Wisconsin Sports Daily. See Sparky Pfeiffer, Charlie Usen, doing his thing. If you ever miss what happened on a Wisconsin Sports Daily show, have no fear. All you got to do is text Sparky, Sparky, to the Nicolay Law Talk and text line at 414-677-1250 and get the link sent to you for that day's show. All you got to do, again, text Sparky to the Nicolay Law Talk and text line. It'll take you right to our podcast page. And you'll be all set. So again, 414-677-1250. The code word is Sparky. Maybe if I don't necessarily take my fingers and push random lines. See, this is what happens. Everybody else, I feel like, except me on this Wisconsin Sports Radio Network, all over the place, Duluth, Superior, Green Bay, Appleton, Wausau, everybody's hearing us in Milwaukee, all that. I don't feel like anybody else uses a million pieces of paper like me.
No.
So right there, I've got paper spread out all over the board. I go to hit it, and I turn another line.
No, actually, Chuck Garbedian uses probably 10 times more paper than you do every single show.
Yes, Chuck Garbedian, but he's old like me, right?
Yeah.
Saturday morning, 7 to 9, talking golf with Garbedian on golf. All right, joining us now, another youngin, Eric Hasseltine, voice of the Memphis Grizzlies, joins us now on the guest hotline, brought to you by Gruber Law. One call. That's all. Eric, thanks for coming on, my friend.
Anytime. If you call me young, and I'll do it all anytime you want.
I know you would. I know. I was being nice.
I'm old, man.
We gotta stick together, us oldies but goodies.
I'm old.
That's all right. Hey, okay, so I want to talk to you about what's going on here with Taylor Jenkins. That whole marriage doesn't appear to have ended nicely necessarily. If I remember correctly, a lot of Grizzlies fans were ready for Taylor Jenkins to be done at that point. And if I remember correctly, there were players that were ready for Taylor Jenkins to be done as well. Before we go back to the good times of how that whole thing started, because everybody was loving Taylor Jenkins in the beginning, how did it end so badly? What went wrong?
That's, it's hard to say because I didn't see it coming. Although at the end of it, I kind of got an inkling something was up. There was just a tension that just didn't feel right. But at the time, you're not thinking, hey, 9 games left, they're going to make a move. It really started at the beginning of the season when, the way I understand it, the upper management wanted a change in style. They wanted to bring in these innovative offensive ideas, and they went out and made an offer to who's now the head coach, Tuomas Isalo, to come join the staff. And he, I think, had a subsequent offer from another team that he turned down, so they didn't think he was going to accept. So they kind of hedged their bet and went out and hired Noah LaRoche, who brought in several of his employees as the company he had started after being a consultant, I believe, with the Spurs. And that kind of set the ball rolling where a lot of the assistants were let go in that offseason. And that, I think, was some of the players didn't sit well. Well, then it turns out Tuomas Isalo accepts the offer, and now you've got Tuomas Isalo and Noah LaRoche coming in, and they decided to go with LaRoche's offense, which is what Miami ran a lot this year, which is basically no high ball screens. It's a lot of just ball movement for, everybody on the outside, spacing kind of like soccer and quick, fast movement, quick, fast shots. And, you have a point guard that loved the high ball screen, especially when Steven Adams was setting it. And so I think that's where it got sideways. And then there just was a little bit of a disconnect with the new assistants. And I think at times some of them held Taylor to be responsible for that when I don't think that was necessarily all his fault.
So that would be my question, because a lot of times, you've heard it for years in sports, right? Where, hey, head coach X, whoever that may be, NFL or manager in baseball, whatever. Hey, you've got to make changes on your staff if you want to stay. Otherwise, you're going and they're all going. Up to you. What would you like to do? And 9 out of 10 times, the head coach would be like, yeah, fine. Who do you want to be the scapegoat? And then that coach gets axed or whatever. And then you bring in somebody else to replace them. That's why it just seems weird to me that Taylor Jenkins would just quit on his own guys and move in a different direction without something happening from above him in that scenario.
Yeah, I don't think that was, again, I don't know for a fact. I don't think that was Taylor's call, knowing how close he was with a lot of those assistant coaches. It didn't seem right, and I know it was a very hard time for him as well. So, listen, when he got here, I was blown away by how he connected with the guys, and blown away by the way you would talk to the players, and they would say all the things he said, and you're reaching your players when they start talking like you. And even though he was a young head coach, he seemed to have a grasp for it. And for whatever reason, things happen, and obviously there were some things with some of the players that we could spend a lot more time on that kind of set that ball in motion, and a disconnect with a team that was incredibly unified at one point and then was not, and you could see it. And so it was tough and really hard. And Taylor's a guy I have a ton of respect for. We became friends aside from basketball, and it was hard. It was a hard time to go through that. And, and then eventually when he was let go, so was Noah LaRoche in 1 year. So that if that doesn't say a little something, that maybe they made a mistake and then they wanted to rectify it with the guy they initially were going to bring in, and he's now the head coach. I'm not sure what does, but as I always say, general managers and front offices are paid to make those decisions, and that's way above my pay grade. So you just go, okay, here we go. This is a different turn. And so I don't think it came from Taylor to make that move and shift. I thought his offense was really innovative when he came in, and worked really well especially with the group that he had. I thought his defenses were really good, even in the year, that they didn't make the playoffs a season before he was let go. Their defense with a bunch of guys from basically the G League was still really solid.
Because everybody was hurt.
Yeah, everybody was hurt, and yet the defense still was good enough to keep them in terms of all the efficiency numbers and within the top 10 and even at times in the top 5. But, they just didn't have any offensive firepower, so to speak. So it goes back to, you look at it and not a lot of people understood it. But again, that's a decision that the front office felt like they had to make.
Talking with Eric Hasseltine, voice of the Memphis Grizzlies, here on Wisconsin Sports Daily. C. Sparky Pfeiffer with you. I want to talk about a little bit more about Taylor Jenkins. Some coaches will have a defensive coach or an offensive coach per se. When Jason Kidd was here, and even when he went to Dallas in the beginning, he had Sean Sweeney, and Sweeney was that defensive-minded guy, and Sweeney's still in the league doing the same thing for another head coach. For Taylor Jenkins, what was his forte? And then did he have a lead assistant that worked on the other side of the ball, or how did that all work?
He worked with both. So he initially he had Darko Rajakovic was his offensive guy, who had come in after another European coach who had been a head coach over there that Taylor knew. Nevin Spahia spent a year here. He brought in Darko with the offense, and he had a coach named Brad Jones who had worked with him in the G League and had been a head coach in the G League, and is the nephew of Jerry Sloan and a very, very astute basketball mind. I mean, Brad is an excellent coach, and Brad took the defense, and they rolled like that. And then when when Darko got hired as the head coach in Toronto, they brought in Patrick St. Andrews, who I believe had been in Milwaukee as well. And he and Taylor had a great relationship. And so that was the year with all the injuries. And, what Pat wanted to do with the offense was really difficult to do when all of your point guards were hurt. You're scrapping it together with guys that you're going from Ja Morant to guys that you're signing on 10-day contracts. And so it was a much different look. And so the offense was struggling. And then, they came back the next year, and that's when Brad was let go, and Pat went to the defense, and they had basically Noah running the offense. And Taylor implemented his stuff with it. And I thought the offense with him and Darko working side by side, and they were very, very close, was phenomenal. The Grizzlies were really an exciting team, and it wasn't just because Ja Morant's an electric player. It was because they moved the ball around. They, as he said, everybody eats, And that the players loved it. The players loved that it wasn't just ball centered on one guy. We're going to run a high ball screen and let him create everything. It was ball movement, take it out of the net. And even after a make, the Grizzlies routinely would catch teams, making a bucket and not getting back and run it right back at them. And that was one of the strengths of the team. Even when they had a lead, if a team started to get on a run, you'd look up and you're down 10. If you're the opponent, you make a three. Okay, you feel better. Grizzlies come down, maybe miss. You make another three, and you're like, all right, we're back in this in 4. Before you know it, the Grizzlies rip that one out of the net, come down, get a bucket, do something defensively, get a 3, and you look back up and the momentum's gone. They had an incredible knack for that. And I think that was a lot of Taylor instilling confidence in everybody that was on the floor, that if you're out there, you have my confidence to be in the position that I want you in to be the best player you can be. And I think a lot of guys that maybe people hadn't heard of were able to build careers on it. Like guys like John Concha or Santi Aldama were able to take their game to another level because of the way Taylor used them in his system. And that's the job of a head coach, develop your players. I mean, you want your stars to be stars, but you've got to have the guys behind them play to their strengths. And Taylor was phenomenal at that.
Talking with Eric Hasseltine, voice of the Memphis Grizzlies, here on Wisconsin Sports Daily. Sparky with you. I want to get your thoughts on, is he a fit to come in here and potentially coach Giannis and whatever new group they put around him and they convince him to sign a Supermax extension and play? And is he a fit if Giannis decides, I'm done, I want out, and the rebuild begins with a first-round pick swap this year and no first-round pick next year? Does he fit both avenues, do you think?
I think that's a tough question because you don't know what the personnel is going to be if Giannis does end up somewhere else this offseason. I know he and Giannis have a good relationship from whenever we were in Milwaukee. Giannis would come and seek him out, and every time we played Milwaukee, numerous people within the Bucks organization would seek him out. It was almost comical because, I'm trying to get my interview with him prior to the game, and I knew I would have to wait till he had to, shake hands and say hello to people and, not just staff members, but people that work the arena. Everybody loved him. And, he would be apologetic. And I was like, do not apologize for people caring about you. We're good. Don't worry about it. But that's who he was. And so I think if Giannis did stay and there was a way to put a piece next to him that, gave them a chance. Yeah, I think that's a great fit because he understands Giannis's game. Now, I think with the way that roster is structured, just from the outside looking in, I think you need to add another piece. Now, is Ryan Rollins that guy in that system? I love what he did this year, especially, and I think that's a Taylor Jenkins type guy, a guy that's worked his way into a definitive role for an NBA team and has worked really hard to get to where he's going. I think the ball movement, but I think Taylor is smart enough to know how to play to Giannis's strengths and then utilize the strengths of the remaining roster. Now, if it did go away and you're in a rebuild, that's a tough situation for any coach because Lon Kruger, who was one time a super successful college coach and went to the NBA with the Hawks, and they said, well, why is it not translating? He said, well, let me explain something to you. Most NBA jobs do not come available with teams that are primed to win.
Right.
The coach usually got fired because the team is either in a rebuild or they're losing and they need to restructure, and you're going in and you're having to build without, maybe the horses that other teams have to run the race. So I think you got to be patient when you're in a rebuild with a guy to get him the players that can fit the system. And if they're young, give him the time to develop. And that's sometimes teams are a little anxious. It can be only a 2-year window. I think it should be a 3-year window. I think you give the time to see the development. Toronto has done that with Darko. And, a lot of people thought Darko may not be back this year and maybe he was on the hot seat. Well, look where they are now. I know they're down 2-0, but they're in the postseason and they were in the 6th seed. And Toronto was a good team and they seemed to be on the rise because people were patient. Look at what the Thunder did with Mark Daigneault when they continued the rebuild. They said, this is our guy. Win or lose right now, we'll make the judgment when we feel like we have the roster capable of winning and he's the coach. If it's not winning when we feel they're capable, then it may be time to make a change, but let him at least get to that point. So in that aspect, I think if the pieces are right, yeah, I think Taylor Jenkins can be successful without a doubt, but
So-
you've got to put the pieces there.
Fine. I have one last question because we're up against the break here on our network clock. Can John Morant and Taylor Jenkins work together again in your mind?
I don't see why not. I don't. I think a change obviously seems imminent here. I don't see why not. I think Taylor understands how to utilize his strengths. That's the question for Jaws. Would he want to play for Taylor Jenkins again? And that would be the only one that could answer that is John Morant.
Right.
But I think if he said, yes, I'm in and I want to play next to Giannis, if that's the case, and I would be willing to do it under Taylor Jenkins and give everything I had, then that's a tantalizing scenario. I think if you break it down, as long as Ja's healthy.
Right.
But if he doesn't feel that he wants to do that and wants to be somewhere else, then I think you look in a different direction and maybe roll with what you got and try to add another wing or somebody like a Chris Middleton that fit Giannis's game, really well. Maybe a younger version of that.
Yep. Eric Hasseltine, voice of the Memphis Grizzlies. Thank you so much. Always a pleasure. And hopefully Memphis is headed in the right direction. Now, thanks so much for coming on, buddy.
Anytime, Sparky. Thanks, bud.
You betcha. Take care. There is Eric Hasseltine, voice of the Grizzlies, joining us here on the Guest Hotline, powered by Gruber Law. One call, that's all. Coming up next, Charlie Sounds of the Day. It's Wisconsin Sports Daily, live from the Wisconsin Sports Radio Network studios, powered by the Potawatomi Sportsbook. Sparky here. Ugh. Cannot wait for
couple more
Friday.
days.
Just come on, Friday,
I'm gonna
get
add
here.
it to my list.
I cannot wait to get rid of this thing. I cannot wait. This is the one bumper piece of music that drives me nuts. So Friday, we're going to allow you to nominate new songs that we can play coming out of break. So this Friday, we'll use the Nicolay talk and text line. And during the show on Friday from 2 to 5, you'll be able to nominate songs. And then starting in May, very beginning of May, whenever the first show is in May, whatever day of the week that is, we will start the new music, new return music. So this music will change, and we'll have the new music that you nominate coming up on Friday. And again, I cannot wait for that because I do not want to hear that song ever again the rest of my life.
1, 2, 3. What sound clips will Chicago Charlie pick today for Sparky? Will Sparky become enraged? Will laughter ensue? It's time for Charlie's Sound of the Day. It's Wisconsin Sports Daily on the Wisconsin Sports Radio Network.
All right, Charlie, where are we going first?
All right, first up, we're going to head on over to the Schrager Hour, hosted by Peter Schrager, of course, and he was discussing his biggest draft night pet peeve.
There is no greater suspense than the NFL draft. It is a reality show. Would you watch a reality show if 3 minutes before the end of the show they tell you who's being eliminated?
Thank you.
Would you watch a movie
Yes,
if 3 minutes before the final scene they told you, actually, a tweet coming across, and they're actually going to be taking this guy. And the only reason I know that is not from it's because the NFL requires that name to be sent to them, and the entire league gets that name 3 minutes before the pick is made. Anyone who's got a credential has one source in the league, and that one source in the league, whether it be from a 32 teams or the league office or an agent, they have access to the picks 90 seconds before they're announced. There's no valor in spoiling an NFL draft pick. So don't give that joy or that attaboy to those who are leaking it beforehand. Enjoy the show. Be shocked once in a while. Be blown away when your team makes a pick that you didn't expect. Be disappointed when your team takes the other guy when you wanted player A. But to read it on a tweet 90 seconds before Goodell says it, I don't know. What is that fun?
No. And this is why when I've done draft shows in the past, I used to do the draft show for the Bucks. Everybody that hosted with me were not allowed to have their phones. Put your phones down. We have a producer back in the studio. If there's a trade or something, they'll let us know. I don't want to know. I don't want you all to know. I want to react in real time when we hear the pick announced, not spoiled for everybody. And I promise you, my buddy Mike Maxey, who used to do the show with me, hated it with a passion. But he followed along and we did our thing. But that is a horrible thing. That's why I hate it. Like, put your phone down and just watch the draft and hang out and watch. I don't get it. I really don't. And furthermore, why would I turn on the TV to watch it if I'm already going to know everything's happening anyhow?
Right.
You're taking away from people actually tuning in.
And I think there are people that aren't tuning in all the time and do just have it on Twitter, and that's the reason that they just go to those people. But you don't have to like his tweet. You don't have to do anything. You can see it and move on. And then, like, the NFL's official tweet of it. Like, don't support those people like Peter Schrager saying, because that just seems, again, like you're just cheating for no reason. Like, there's no value to that.
Yes. Next one.
Next up, we're going to hear from 49ers GM John Lynch on how he uses AI in his draft room.
You aren't using it, you're already behind. And the cool thing is, what we found, you don't need to be an expert. Just like you at home, plan on a travel itinerary. You can just ask the thing and it can spit out some pretty good things, some pretty good ideas. Our developers, I think we're fortunate to be where we are, kind of at the epicenter of the innovation there. And we've tried to take advantage of that. I do think every team is probably using it in some form or fashion. I think that will only increase as we move forward.
There is a great column today in The Athletic by Jordan Rodriguez. I believe that's how you say her name, Jordan Rodriguez. And she did this great piece on this dude with the Denver Broncos and this whole big system that they built in-house that has like all the information you could potentially want all in one centralized location for every player. Like, you click on a player, you get his medical, you get all the scouting reports on him, you get all the clips, all broken down into by certain segments of whatever you may want. Everything is located in one, and they've been working on it for like 10 years or something like that. and it is simply amazing. And the guy that put it together started with the Chargers as an intern when they were starting to figure out how to do this stuff, and he went in there and helped them and then got a full-time job with the Broncos and did this. In that story, there's another guy that was with the Rams that left the Rams and went to the Jaguars and brought the software that he created with the Rams and now has put it into the Jaguars and replaced their software that they created, which was called Blackwater or something like that. But the problem is that the player evals and all that doesn't sync up with each other. It doesn't read the same way. So all the stuff that was in there is pretty much not going to be relevant in the new system. It just gives you a greater understanding of how highly sophisticated all this is. And they talk about using AI, and he is right, Lynch is. A lot of these teams are using AI, and some of these teams are still have like 6 different apps they're using for different things and don't have it centralized. I'd love to know what Green Bay does. They weren't mentioned in this article, but it is a wild time for sure. Charlie Usen over there, Steve Sparky Pfeiffer here. Coming up next, time to talk about the Crew. Great piece on Bryce Terang today. And whether or not they should extend them, and have they talked to him? There's somebody else that maybe should be extended first. We'll talk about that next. It's Wisconsin Sports Daily, live from the Wisconsin Sports Radio Network studios, powered by the Potawatomi Sportsbook. Steve Sparky Pfeiffer with you here on a Tuesday. Time for the fan weather forecast brought to you by the Milwaukee Area Napa Auto Care Association. Currently right now, 70 degrees, sunny skies outside, which is a beautiful thing. Looks like clear skies for the rest of tonight. Tomorrow, a high of 65.
Some shows talk about one team. Other shows barely talk sports. This show will talk Packers, Brewers, and Bucks. Every day. It's Wisconsin Sports Daily with Steve Sparky Pfeiffer on the Wisconsin Sports Radio Network.
Time to go. Yes, it is 3 o'clock hour. A reminder, we are on the air until 4:30 today. 4:30. Then it's a leadoff show with a big old hunk of love. Tommy Wirtz in the house coming up at 4:30 to 5:30. Then after the last bit, you make the switch. Potawatomi Sportsbook postgame show with the franchise Tim Allen and Tommy Wirtz tonight following game one between the Brewers and the Tigers. Speaking of those Tigers, we'll talk with Jeff Rieger from 97.1 The Ticket in Detroit coming up at 4:20. A little bit about the Tigers, but more so about the Lions as we get ready for the draft coming up Thursday, Friday, and Saturday, about the Lions offseason, what they're looking for in the draft, what expectations are in Detroit, all that fun stuff. And Charlie is working on getting us somebody from Chicago and Minnesota for tomorrow's show so we can get their thoughts going into the draft too. So looking forward to that. Also, don't forget, Green Bay football draft show comes up Friday night starting at 6 o'clock. No first round picks, so no reason to do a show on Thursday. So we'll talk about rounds 2 and 3 with Charlie Usen and myself. And it's brought to you by Steam Fitters, Local 601, right here on the Wisconsin Sports Radio Network. So looking forward to that. It is 3 o'clock, which means it's time to do this.
It's time to talk about the crew. It's Wisconsin Sports Daily on the Wisconsin Sports Radio Network.
Kurt Hogue doing Kurt Hogue type stuff, doing fabulous work for the Milwaukee Journal-Sentinel like he always does. He's going to be on the Mason Crosby show with Mitch Thundernellis tomorrow afternoon. I believe it's at 1 o'clock. You'll want to tune in and hear Kurt Hogue. They're going to talk about this piece that he wrote in the Journal-Sentinel about Bryce Terang and about getting an extension potentially done with him. Now, he has 3 years left on his deal after this year. This is not Contreras, who has 1 year left on his deal after this year. They do not have to extend Bryce Terang right now to ensure that he's here long term. But as we've seen around the rest of Major League Baseball, guys are getting extended earlier and earlier. See Cooper Pratt, who's already been extended. See Jackson Churio, who's already been extended. Both of them extended before ever seeing a pitch in Major League Baseball. And as we've talked about on this show, there is a belief, especially from me, that they can no longer afford Bryce Terang because of how well he played last year and how well he's playing this year at this point. Kurt Hogue took it upon himself to go have a conversation with Bryce Terang about said extension possibilities. And Bryce Terang said, quote, "I think every player is interested in it if it's the right number, if it's the best thing for them and their family. I mean, you're always open ears as a player." That's fine. Terang and the Brewers have had extension discussions in the past, he said, but nothing crazy. Not surprised about that either. Kurt Hogue asked him, was anything brought to him by the Brewers this winter? Nope, said Terang. Nothing in terms of that. No. Now, in this article, it's pointed out, Matt Arnold, citing the club's standard policy of not discussing negotiations publicly, declined to comment for this story. Good job, Matt Arnold. You shouldn't comment on speculation and all of this conversation that's going on. Terang was adamant that he's not eyeing any sort of free agency payday just yet. Quote, I'm so far away from that, I don't really like to think about it. I think if I play my game, that stuff will take care of itself, and it will. You play the game the way you're supposed to and the way you can, that stuff takes care of itself. And then obviously there's more quotes in here and so forth. Talks about Milwaukee and the organization of whether or not, he would love to stay. Oh, yeah, for sure, said Terang. I mean, this is all I know. I've been with Milwaukee my whole career. This is all I know. I only know these fans and this city. When asked about a team-friendly deal, Terang said it would take the right amount. Now, the number thrown out in this article by Kurt Hogue is 5 at $90 million. So instead of doing math, let's call it 5 at 100 and just say it's $20 million a year, right? Between 18 and 20 million a year or something along those lines. Now, the first thing that you have to remember, and that needs to be discussed before we jump into this, is number one, you already paid Jackson Chourio long term. Number two, you already paid Cooper Pratt long term. If maybe you hadn't done that already and we're still paying, measly tiny numbers to both of these guys and didn't have them signed long term to the numbers you have them signed at, maybe this becomes more of a real conversation, I guess, at that point. But now you have about $18 million a year tied up into Chourio and Terang for the foreseeable future, which is that of, say, a Christian Yelich type player at $18 million a year. Now, how much more can you go on a year-to-year basis with another big number player? Remember, they have not signed the best player in the organization, or so we think, in Jesus Madej yet to a long-term deal. And that number is not getting smaller by the day either, because he's tearing up AA. We're not Bryce Terang, but where Cooper Pratt stunk out loud hitting baseball last year, where we were told, well, it's a Southern League, Sparky. It's harder to hit there. Don't hold that against Cooper Pratt. It doesn't appear Jesus Madej is having any issues with it, and he's not signed yet. We're not going to ask you Bryce Terang versus Jesus Madej, because if we're being honest, I think most of you would say Madej in a heartbeat and say bye-bye to Bryce Terang. That would be too easy. I would like to ask you a different question, something that Tommy Wirtz and I have been going back and forth on since this morning. And then Kurt Hogue and I were texting earlier today about as well. I brought this exact conversation up to a certain degree with Tim Dillard when he joined us yesterday. And Tommy Wirtz, knowing that I was going to do this as a topic today, because after him and I were going back and forth, I said, well, I'm doing this as a topic today. Just so you know, I'm doing this as a topic. They had on Paul Wagner, former Brewers pitcher. And he comes on to us, does his weekly hit like he always does with them. And at the end of the interview, Paul Wagner was asked the question by Tommy Wirtz that I now ask you. Who would you rather extend today? Bryce Terang or William Contreras? Nicolay Law Talking text line 414-677-1250, 414-677-1250. On the socials at WI Sports Radio, streaming live on X and on YouTube. You can comment there in our dugout chat as well. This is what Paul Wagner had to say.
Paul, I just got one more for you. I'm going to set you up for Sparky because I think Sparky's going to do a topic on this. If you could pay Bryce Terang or William Contreras, and you can only pay one of them, Paul, who are you picking?
Ooh. I'm gonna pay Bryce Terang.
Yes, let's go.
Yeah. I'm gonna pay him. I think nothing against Contreras at all. Nothing at all. I just don't think that. But a catcher, as we all know, just look at it.
They break down.
He gets his ass kicked every day. Every day. I mean, he's like a lineman, for goodness sakes. So I'm going to pay. If I'm going to extend into the $100+ million, and I'm going to go 5, 6, buy a couple years of free agency. If I'm going to go multi-year like that, I'm going to stick to a Jackson Chourio. I'm going to stick to a Bryce Terang. I'm going to stick to the guy that can play a lot and kind of avoid as much injury as possible.
Okay, that's good. Now, in fairness to what Paul Wagner said. That argument that he makes there, not really an argument, but his defense of paying Turang over Contreras is health. How often does William Contreras miss games?
Not often. He played half the season last year with a hand that apparently wasn't good. Yeah. So I think at the same time as I kind of understand where he's coming from, that dude's a tank, man. He goes out there and he takes whatever punishment we're talking about right now. And I think you look at Bryce Terang, the way he plays too, and yes, he's on the field, but there's no guarantee he stays on the field too with his aggressive style of defense. He's always running 110% around the bases. Like, that's a guy that plays with a lot of energy. And while you want that, that also leads to higher injury risk. And I think that's something that you can't just apply to William Contreras and then not also potentially apply to a Bryce Terang too in the future.
Correct. I totally agree with you. Now, this is the one thing we all need to remember. You're going to pay Bryce Terang, who there have been already a couple of articles written, national, about Bryce Terang and MVP and the numbers he's putting up and so forth. And I know, but they're in last place. Look, every team in this division is over 500 right now. They're the only team in baseball that has every team in the division with a winning record. Is it likely to continue? Absolutely not. It's not. Now, what teams are going to fall back? What teams are going to be under 500 at the end of the year? I don't know. A large part of that's going to be probably based on health and who can stay healthy and who isn't healthy, and what players that are hot right now can sustain it for the entire season, and what players that are struggling right now, Sal Frelick, can actually turn it around and have a better second half of the year. There's a lot of variables that go into it. So I'm not going to sit here and tell you I know how this division is going to play out, but I do know that all 5 teams are not going to have winning records at the end of the year. Now, having said that, if Bryce Terang, let's say Bryce Terang's in the top 5 for MVP, top 6, whatever the case may be, right? Top 5, let's say. He is going to demand and be in the area of some of the top salaries at second base, folks. Jose Altuve this year is making $33 million. Marcus Semien is making $26 million. Gleyber Torres with Detroit is $22 million. Jeff McNeil with Atlanta, or with the Athletics, I should say, is making $16.25. Of course, he's a former Met. Ketel Marte with Arizona is making $16 million. And I am here to tell you right now, Bryce Terang deserves to be one on that list. If you're going to give me those other guys, I'm taking Bryce Terang over all of them, including Altuve, because Altuve is old. And Altuve has been hurt and missed games. I've had him in fantasy before, too, the last couple of years, so I know what that looks like. That means you're talking about paying this dude like $35 million a year. $30 to $35 million a year.
Well, and that wasn't even including Nico Horner's contract, because he's still getting paid $12 million this year, but his contract extension next year bumps up to $23 million.
Correct. But when you look at contract average now, okay, over the length of the contract, not just this year, Jose Altuve's deal averages $25 million a year. Marcus Semien's deal averages $25 million a year. Nico Horner's deal averages $23.5 million a year. Gleyber Torres is at $22. Ketel Marte is at $19.4. So even if we say average-wise, he still belongs up there at the top of this list, around $25 million or more.
And that's a lot of money to be paying to a second baseman, a position that I think most teams don't really value that highly. I think catcher is kind of in the same boat just based off of the contract extensions, but I think because of where they're currently at, you can jump the market up there. You can't do that at second base.
Contreras. Top payroll right now. Sean Murphy in Atlanta, $15 million. JT Realmuto in Philly, $15 million. Will Smith of the Dodgers, $12.9. Cal Raleigh of Seattle, $12.6. Salvador Perez, ancient Salvador Perez, $12.5. Contract average, Cal Raleigh is at $17.5. Realmuto is $15. That's second. Will Smith is $14. Folks, you can get William Contreras between $15 and $17 million a year and call it a day. And you could probably do it, what is he, around 30 years old? You can do it for 3 to 5 years, somewhere in that area, probably 4 or 5 years, and have your catcher penciled in. Now, I understand, but you have Jefferson Carroll, and he's right there, Sparky, and everybody says he's a stud. I get it. Do you all say he can't stay healthy? He can't stay healthy. That's a problem. I ask you, who would you rather extend? Bryce Terang, younger player, 3 years left before you actually have to pay him after this year. So 4 years, if you include this year, 4 years. or William Contreras, who you have to make a decision on after next year, who would you extend first? Nicolay Law Talking text line 414-677-1250, 414-677-1250. As we talked about this yesterday with Tim Dillard, I believe I can argue William Contreras is as important to this pitching staff as is Chris Hook. If the plan of this organization is, and it appears it is, because this is what they've been doing for 20 years, that they are simply not going to go and spend a lot of money on starting pitching. I'm not paying Corbin Burns. I'm not paying Freddie Peralta. I'm not paying Josh Hader. I'm not paying these dudes or Devin Williams. Not going to do it. I'm going to go find veteran arms if I have to pull in the bullpen, and we'll figure it out for closers or whatever. And then starters, I'm just going to draft and develop, and we're just going to do it that way. And we've had success, and we're going to continue to do it the right way. And I give Chris Hook a ton of credit, and he deserves a ton of credit. But man, I've never heard any manager, as I said yesterday, ever praise a catcher as much as I hear Pat Murphy praise the catcher. And the latest example is Brandon Sproat, who was not good the first couple of starts. And then Contreras is back there working with him, and all of a sudden, poof, he looks really good. I'm sorry, but I don't know how good Jefferson Caro is at calling a game. I don't know how good Jefferson Caro is working in a game with a pitcher that's struggling and getting him back on the right track. There is a lot that goes into being a catcher. It was funny. Last night, my kid had baseball practice, and I was talking to a dad whose kid is the catcher on our team. And we were talking about the intricacies of that position because my older kids played catcher up until high school, through freshman year, whatever, and about all the things that go into being a catcher. It's not just squatting down and catching a ball. There's so much more that goes into being the leader of that infield and being the communicator and being the psychologist for the pitcher and everything that goes into it, on top of game planning and calling the right game and knowing the opposing hitters and calling the pitches at the right time. So much. You might have a great hitting catcher that can't call a game to save their soul, or can't defend, or can't throw out runners. I have all these issues. This dude is everything you want. He's everything you want. And now you're going to tell me that, we're going to let William Contreras walk, and we're going to hope that Jefferson Caro can be as good as Contreras behind the plate calling a game. Defensively, I'm not worried about Caro. He's got a cannon. So I think he's coming off that surgery. I haven't seen him this year, but he did before this latest injury have a cannon. We'll see how strong it is now since then. But from that idea, I don't want to move on from William Contreras. I want to keep the train rolling with these young pitchers coming up and developing and being studs with Contreras and Hook. I don't want to break that tandem up. Now, Bryce Terang, man, he's awesome. He's a great player. Defensively, whiz. Platinum glove, remember. Offensively, he might hit 25 to 30 home runs, steal 30-plus bags, hit around 300. That's amazing. But guess what? I think, and I could be wrong, that Madej or Pena, depending on what happens to Cooper Pratt at shortstop, could end up playing second base. And I think that they could be studs offensively as well. There are some people that think Pena may be a better prospect than Madej. And there are others that think Madej might be the best prospect the Brewers have seen in eons in this organization, and that's including Churio. So from that perspective, I feel okay with what's coming behind Bryce Terang in 3 years or 2 years, depending on how long they hold on to him if they're not going to extend him, because you can't let that dude walk for nothing, before you go and replace him with one of these studs that you have behind him. That position is hitting and defense. Nothing else. I don't have to worry about anything else with that guy at second base. So I know Contreras is older than Terang and all of that, but for me, I'm paying William Contreras. What about you? Nicolay Law Talking text line 414-677-1250, 414-677-1250 on X and on YouTube at WI Sports Radio. What say you, Charlie?
I think, first of all, with William Contreras, the numbers for the guys that are top paid around him are a little misleading. With Cal Raleigh, this year and next year, he got his arbitration years bought out. So he's at 12.6 and then 13.6. And then it jumps up to 24.6 for the next 3 years after that. So you're probably going to have to get closer to that number to get William Contreras paid. So it's not really 18 million. It's probably closer to like 20, 21, like we're talking about with Bryce Terang. And then Will Smith has a 10-year contract extension. That's what he got from the Dodgers. So it's a lot of money to spread out over a longer time. He was also
it's not the Brewers'
25.
Fault.
No,
it's not the Brewers' fault. I only have the numbers I have, William. I'm sorry. That's what the numbers say. That's what I'm going on.
Agents are going to go to those two things.
I'm not giving you $30 million a year and jumping the top guy by $13 million a year. Like, with all due respect, I like you, but let's not go crazy here. Let's keep everything in perspective of how much you actually deserve. The top number right now is $17 million. Like, I can't be going way over the top on that number and feel good about it, especially being here in Milwaukee. I'll make you the highest paid catcher. We'll go to 17 million or 17.5 or whatever. I can't like go to 25 or 30 million. That 25 to 30 million, you have to pay Bryce Terang. That's not negotiable. The Contreras thing, okay, 17's one. You want to be one. Okay, we'll go to 18. But 25 to 30 like Terang, no, I'm not doing that. That's not close.
I don't think it's going to be 17 or 18. I think it's going to be 21 that he's going to ask for. Is 21? Are you comfortable with that?
And we counter with 18. You counter now. Then we play this game, right? I mean, we're not giving you the number you ask for. Nobody gives anybody the number they ask for. That's the starting point. You ask high knowing it's going to be lower, and then we negotiate back and forth.
He's going to start at 25. You know, he's going to start there. And it's going to end up at 21.
Yeah, I'd laugh. Based on what are you 25? Like we would really have to have a lot. Now you could play me from the radio. Be like,
he's consistently ranked as a top 3 catcher in baseball, and
the
we just
top
named
catcher's at 17. You're saying he's $8 million better.
I'm telling you that Cal Raleigh is about to make $25 million per year for 3 straight years, and that's the number that his agent's going to look at.
He doesn't have the power of William Contreras. Contreras does not have that power.
But Contreras is a better framer. He's a better catcher defensively. He's a better contact hitter.
You have to again lay out your case factually with all of that. Now, if they can. Okay, you have the conversation. Here is, we got a bunch coming in here on the talk and text line, which is great. Let's see, from the 715, we can't have this conversation until Yelich comes off the payroll. Hence, why Contreras also isn't going to ever resign with the Brewers. I take Terang for $20 million in a heartbeat. You're not getting him for $20 million in a heartbeat. There's just no chance. Based on those numbers I read, he's going to get $25 to $30 million a year. I just cannot imagine. And now, again, I understand. In the Hogue piece, Hogue says 25 at 90, so that'd be 5 at 100, right? That would be undervaluing Terang for where he stacks up against the guys in front of him. So in my mind, I don't know if you agree, that would be a hometown discount if he took 5 at 20 a year.
Oh, yeah, I think so.
That is a hometown discount.
But at the same time, when you're talking about Contreras the same way, like, I don't think he has the longevity yet of what Jose Altuve has been able to do.
Christian Yelich. Let's talk about his numbers quickly. He has next year 27 at 23.9 is what he's making. So he's got next year. Contreras will be on the books next year for the same number or the higher number because of whatever. 28. Yelich is at 23.89. Then a mutual option in 29. The Brewers can get out. So really, Yelich has 2 years left on his deal after this year. And then it's boogie time on Christian Yelich if you want it to be. So you really would only have to carry that high payroll with Yelich for 1 year. And then Yelich's number of 23.8 goes off the books after the 28 season and then is replaced essentially with a Contreras $20 million number, $18 million number, or the Terang number, whatever that number ends up being. So you're swapping those two out. But again, remember, you have Churio at 10, you have Pratt at 8, and you're going to have to pay Madej, and that does not include any of the other payroll that's on the books. So if you go at, say, 20 million, that's 30, that's 38. Madej is going to be at least 10 to 15 somewhere in that area.
That's where McGonagall was 15,
right? Right. So 38, that's 53 million. And we're talking about 4 to 5 baseball players at that point. And you have $129 million payroll. Now, again, that's with the assumption that payrolls are going to continue to climb. And whether there's a cap or not, in 3 to 5 years, they're not going to be at 129. I bet you they're going to be at like 150, 145, 150 as we move forward here. So that number isn't as crazy necessarily if you project kind of going forward on it. Asking you, who would you rather extend? Bryce Terang or William Contreras? Got some guys on hold. Chris and Franklin, Lewis on the north side of Milwaukee, plus a bunch of people texting in the Nicolay Law Talk and text line. We'll get to you guys coming up next. 414-677-1250. Hop aboard. Let's talk. Terang or Contreras? Who do you extend today? It's Wisconsin Sports Daily, live from the Wisconsin Sports Radio Network studios, powered by the Potawatomi Sportsbook. And don't forget about my friends over there at Wendy's. Did you know that any youth sports player can score a free small classic Frosty anytime they visit Wendy's in their sports uniform? That's right. Just stop by after practice or with your team after a game. Who doesn't love a Frosty? And I want to point out, there is no purchase necessary. You can literally drive up, get your kid a Frosty, and drive away if you want without ordering anything else. You don't have to buy a single thing. Pull up. My kid would like a chocolate Frosty. He or she is in their uniform. Boop, there you go. And you're on your way. If you're a mean parent, you do that. If you love your kids, you get them fries too. Just saying. Back after this. It's Wisconsin Sports Daily live right here with you from the Wisconsin Sports Radio Network studios, powered by the Potawatomi Sportsbook. Sparky, Charlie Usen, other side of the glass. Thanks for listening. WNFL in Green Bay and Appleton. I appreciate you. 99.7 there. Appreciate you listening as well in Duluth Superior on the game. 710 the game. In Milwaukee, 1250 AM and 105.7 FM the Fan. Of course, in Wausau on 93.9 the game. Don't forget, if you missed what happened on today's show, all you got to do is text the code word Sparky to the Nicolay Law Talk and text line at 414-677-1250 to get the link to today's show sent right to your phone. Again, text Sparky to the Nicolay Law Talk and text line at 414-677-1250. And you can do that any day of the week, right? It'd be 5:30, 6 o'clock, and then you're like, oh, damn, I missed I missed Sparky's show today. Instead of having to go look for it on the website, all this other stuff, boom, text it right to you. It's a beautiful thing. Take advantage of that if you can. Asking you right now, who would you rather extend, Bryce Terang or William Contreras? A great piece by Kurt Hogan, the Milwaukee Journal-Sentinel today, talking to Bryce Terang. And in that piece, Bryce Terang says, yeah, we've kind of talked, but nothing significant. And in that piece, Kurt Hogue speculates that it could be 5 at 90 or somewhere in that area, maybe, to potentially do something. So it's that or it's William Contreras. And we went over Christian Yelich's deal. He's got 2 years left after this year, and then he can be gone because it's a mutual option. The top number for catchers right now is like $17.5 million based on contract average with Cal Raleigh, and Charlie dove into that contract and said he's going to hit 25 in the next upcoming years for a couple of back-to-back years. Meanwhile, on the other side, the top number right now is Jose Altuve. This year is making $33 million with an annual contract average of $25 million when you look at second baseman with Bryce Terang. So that gives you the lay of the land. Which one would you rather have? Nicolay Law Talk and text line 414-677-1250. Chris and Franklin, you're up next on Wisconsin Sports Daily. What's up, Chris?
Hey, thanks for taking my call.
Sure.
I would start by saying when I think about this Brewer team, especially over the last 3 years, I think of the Cardinals over the 2010s.
Yep.
And what was the lifeblood of those teams but Yadier Molina? And
exactly,
we have a chance to create that player for the Brewers within this organization and continue this success long term. I don't know how you could look at it any other way when we have such a deep prospect list behind to fill that second base role.
I agree with you 100%. That's exactly correct. Yadi Molina. That is the comparison that you need to know at this point. Thanks for the call.
Well, you mentioned
1,000%.
Salvador Perez before, too. For those Kansas City Royal teams, he was that heartbeat for that team.
Back-to-back World Series teams, and now bringing them back again.
And that type of guy can do a lot, especially when he has the type of pull that William Contreras has, where it just people are attracted to that. And he's a great leader on the field. You can see people listen to him. Those small market teams that make those storied runs are led by that guy usually.
Correct. Yeah, I absolutely agree with you on that. Let's see here. 414 on the Nicolay Law Talk and text line. Contreras, not even close. The way he handles pitchers is worth whatever you need to pay him. Brewers have minor league depth to replace Terang. That's Patrick in Tosa. From the 414, Joe here. Bryce Terang is the next face of this franchise. The guy is wicked talented and gets it done on both sides of the game. Again, I am not arguing with you how good he is. I know how good he is. And because of how good he is, that's why I'm saying, can you justify $25 to $30 million a year potentially if his agent, which he should, argue that he's the top second baseman in baseball, and you're going to go up that ladder, just like Contreras' agent is going to argue he's the best catcher, and he's going to go up that ladder. Are you willing to pay that number and knowing that you have Luis Pena coming, you have Madej coming, you got all these dudes coming, and if you do this, somebody's X'd out. So then that means Madej is probably at third base because Cooper Pratt's going to be the shortstop, it appears, based on what they gave him. And then maybe Pena ends up getting traded. I don't know how that plays out, but there would have to be some type of decision made going forward on that one. Pete in St. Francis just simply says, Contreras. Thank you, Pete. Tommy and Dallas, Terang is my favorite player, but I got to agree with Sparky. But for the simple fact that the club is stacked with middle infielders throughout the entire system. Agree with you there as well.
I think so.
A lot of Contreras love. I think I've won people over on this argument.
I don't know. I was kind of forgot about this guy. Marco Dingus is in the minor leagues too.
Stop! God.
And you can wait
That's
2
another
extra
one.
years on that over
But-
Caro and
but-
pay
but-
William
but-
Contreras.
Listen to me. But this is the but. And I don't know the answer to this. Matt Arnold does. The Brewers front office does. Their scouts know, right? I don't know how he is at calling a game. I have no idea. I know the dude can hit. I know the dude's got a lot of pop. Caro can hit. He's got a lot of pop. I just don't know how good are they at calling games. I know that I have one of the best, if not the best, at calling a game right now, William Contreras. And the Yadi Molina one, even though I can't stand Yadi Molina, that is the perfect call because he was the lifeblood to keep that thing together. Lewis, north side of Milwaukee. You're next on Wisconsin Sports Daily with me, Steve Sparky Pfeiffer. What's up, Lewis?
What's up, Spark? I think Chris hit it out the park.
Yep.
Exactly what I was going to say. Contreras equals Molina. But I have something better for you. If Terang is presented a contract extension, he better sign it. Because we got 2 stud infielders in the minor leagues. Okay, so he better sign up. But how about this? How about we just release Mr. Yelich? We don't need him. We don't need to pay him $28, $30 million this year or next year, especially, the abductor strain. That's sort of, the PED injury, if you know what I mean. And it isn't like we haven't had this inkling about him in the past.
Yeah.
Like, what is this infatuation with Yelich? Get rid of him, sign Terang, sign Contreras, let Made and let Pena come up here and play next year and see what we do.
All right, Lewis, thanks for the call. I'm not going on that road. We have no evidence of nothing of the sort, so we're not going to touch that with the 10-foot pole on this radio station because I don't want to be sued by anybody. So let's start there. Secondly, Christian Yelich had a great year last year. And yes, you're missing Vaughn, and yes, you're missing Jackson Chourio, but you're missing the thump of Christian Yelich, which he finally showed last year for the first time in years that he could hit around 30 home runs again. And based on last year, is the best hitter on this team. Well, maybe not the best hitter. Maybe that's Terang. But him and Terang are the two, probably 2 of the better hitters on this baseball team at that point. I don't want to move on from Christian Yelich. And I wanted to trade Yelich years ago for a bag of donuts. Like, I didn't care. Like, give him a top prospect to get this contract off of our books because I was arguing I wanted Corbin Burns long-term. I wanted to be able to keep Woodruff long-term. I want that money to use on a stud starting pitcher. And the Brewers said no. And the Brewers also may have said, we couldn't do it even if we wanted to because nobody wanted him at that point for the amount of money they were paying him. Now, I think if Yelich puts up another year, yes, I think people would take Christian Yelich for 2 years at, $45 million or whatever. I think people would absolutely do that. It's $45 million total over 2 years. I think people would absolutely do that at this point if that became a thing at some point. Jay in Bayview, good afternoon. I, too, would take William Contreras. The way he handles young pitchers will always be needed. We'll get them cheaper than Terang, but I don't really care about that because it's not my money. Contreras has been very durable, and once Yelich leaves, if we bring up a younger catcher, Contreras can also DH. Jay in Bayview. Ha-ha! Charlie nodded his head
He
like,
could.
good
Yeah.
point.
He could. I'd be interested in that. Again, especially since it's 2 more years of Yelich. Whether you keep him now, you keep him for 2 years, get rid of him now, get rid of him after 2 years. Like, either way, you're still going to have to find somebody to replace that, and he's going to have to be primary DH. I find it hard to believe he plays any more left field this season. All last season, he played DH for a majority of the year, and then this year, now that he's already hurt or this early in the season, it makes me feel like they're going to want to put baby gloves on him, put him at DH for the rest of the time, hope that the rest of the outfield gets healthy. Garrett Mitchell has played really well. You're really confident in that. So he's going to stay there. You need to find somebody to replace that. And I don't think you're signing Andrew Vaughn long-term. His arbitration numbers are already higher than I think what he was probably worth this past season just because it was half a year. I don't think you're keeping that. So that's not going to be an option at DH. Jake Bauers probably isn't going to be a long-term option, but he keeps finding his way back on this team. So you never know. It's kind of like Bo Melton with the Packers. He keeps finding his way back on the team. So I think this is a situation where you could just have a plan for the next 3-4 seasons and just lock in William Contreras.
Here is another text message coming in the 715. There should be a some type of word limit. Like, if you have more than X amount of words, you're required to call instead of text, just to make my life easier. Nothing personal, but when I have to read this,
there's a word limit for us to respond to them.
Is there?
It's 160, so I don't know if their word limit.
All right, I'm going to try and read this without screwing it up. From the 715, even though he is a great community man, now a mediocre player, 95% of the time only a DH, a liability in left field in comparison to others on the roster. Christian's contract has been an albatross. If we wouldn't have had him, we could have locked up Bryce. Now he's going to be gone, and it just won't be feasible money-wise. So it has to be Contreras. How he can handle the pitching staff is absolutely phenomenal. It wasn't any more evident on Sunday with the first inning. That's from the 7-1-5. Hey, man, I hope Tommy Wirtz is listening to this. He's got the leadoff show, 4:30 to 5:30. But did I read maybe one that said Terang? I think every other person that said Contreras.
Yeah.
We're all on the same page.
But the person that said Terang was convinced that he's the next Altuve. He's the next star at that position.
He is a star at that position. Like I said, I think you can argue he's the best second baseman in baseball right now.
I think you could right now. I just think like Altuve, when he got his contract, had 4 years of that before he got to that point. He had the MVP. He had other stuff. Like
with contracts escalating, do you have any idea
have to pay these
how
guys.
Much Terang's going to command in 4 years?
You have to pay these guys
when he becomes a free agent.
Well, that's part of the reason the Astros paid Altuve $33 million, because they just knew they had to get ahead of whatever curve, and they waited too long at that.
Yes, that's absolutely right. All right, take a quick time out, come back. Things that Sparky missed. I know normally it's at 4:40, but the show's done at 4:30. We have Green and Gold update coming up at 4 o'clock. Brian Gutekunst talked about a bunch of different things today we'll jump into. And then Jeff Rieger from 97.1 The Ticket talk about Tigers, Lions offseason, Lions draft needs coming up on Thursday, Friday, and Saturday night. He'll join us at 4:20. Hey, step up to the plate. Take a shot at winning major prizes in the $300,000 Big League Series at the Potawatomi Casino Hotel. April through June, you could win a share of $300,000 in prizes. Again, right here in Milwaukee. Sorry to those folks in Carter. All monthly promo entries count towards the grand finale drawings on June 26th. Get triple the entries during Brewers home games and score one of 3 all-new Toyota vehicles. More info online. Must be 21 and a rewards member to play. Only, again, at the Potawatomi Casino Hotel, Milwaukee. Things Sparky missed. Up next, Wisconsin Sports Daily, live from the Wisconsin Sports Radio Network studios, powered by the Potawatomi Sportsbook. It's Wisconsin Sports Daily. Steve Sparky Pfeiffer, Charlie Usen, other side of the glass. My friends over there at Habish and Rotier. We do Plead the Fifth every Friday. We'll do it again this Friday at 4:20. Your chime to tell somebody to hush it up. It's Tuesday. Brandon Snyder was off of 9 to noon yesterday with John Kuhn. Has he already been nominated based on just what he talked about today? Because they were all over him for not talking a lot today on the show.
No, he has not been nominated for anything yet. He might be keeping it quiet because he just keeps getting on.
Is that
on
what
the show.
is happening?
It might be. I didn't get to talk to him
John Kuhn
today.
and Robbie both were like, dude, what is wrong with you today? You're barely talking. I'm fine. Oh, okay. Yeah, we're just checking in on him. Seemed very weird that he wasn't talking
He
a bunch.
just needed a warm-up day. He had a day off, so he just needs a warm-up.
Yeah, maybe.
Maybe that's what it was.
Yeah, I don't know. Habish Rotier, baby. They've been helping injured Wisconsinites for nearly 100 years. And again, their tagline, national reputation, hometown service. We always talk about national reputation. Doesn't really concern you and I, other than we know they win a lot, right? That's how you build that reputation. The hometown service part, that's the part of this that we care about the most. That's the part where we look at and go, okay, tell me more about hometown service, Sparky. Tell me more about what that is really all about at the end of the day. And that's easy, right? They're super approachable. Got that. If it was a doctor or a nurse, that bedside manner that you're looking at. You don't want to be looked at as just a number and feel like you're just another client when you walk out of that office. When you want to walk out of their office, you want to feel like the attorney you talk to gives a crap. You want to feel like the attorney that you talk to is going to bust their tail end to help you get what you deserve at the end of the day. Because it can be a scary, scary time, having been through this myself. It can be a very scary time when you get in a bad car accident and get hurt. Very scary. And you're trying to figure out how you're going to manage everything. And the great thing about Habish and Rotier is they're going to take care of all of it for you. So you don't have to freak out and you can take a breath and be like, okay, this is all going to work out. Just trust them and let them do what they do. And everything is good. Habish and Rotier, national reputation, hometown service. Again, check them out online at habish.com. Again, it is habish.com.
What story did Sparky miss talking about today on Wisconsin Sports Daily? Don't you worry. Sparky's got you covered now. Don't miss Milwaukee Admirals hockey this season. Don't just buy tickets. Invest in memories at MilwaukeeAdmirals.com.
All right, thing that we missed today that we didn't get a chance to talk to. Article on CBSSports.com talking about potential trades that could happen on draft weekend. No longer draft night, draft weekend, Thursday, Friday, and Saturday. And one of the suggested trades that could happen involve your Green Bay Packers. And a name that's been thrown out there a bunch on this show, Anthony Richardson. Chris Ballard, the GM of the Colts, came out, I believe it was today or yesterday, and said, yeah, they're taking calls, but they haven't gotten anything apparently that they like at this point for Anthony Richardson. Richardson obviously demanded a trade and wants out, which you obviously completely understand. I've said time and time again, I don't want him in Green Bay. Being a Colts fan as well, I haven't watched him. I have no interest in him being a Packer and rooting two of my teams. But they say that they believe, CBS Sports, that you could potentially get Anthony Richardson for one of your 2 fifth-round picks to lead off day 3. So instead of having, well, actually, no, day 3 is started by the 4th round. So in the 5th round, 2 picks in the 5th round, you would only have one, but you would have a legitimate backup quarterback. Now, is that guy any better than Desmond Ridder currently on your roster? I don't know.
Probably, though. I mean, Desmond Ridder, I think, has more starting experience than Anthony Richardson so far, which I guess helps him out a little bit.
I don't think he's been hurt nearly as much as Anthony Richardson.
Anthony Richardson just has some raw tools, man.
Yes.
That cannon of an arm. He's a good athlete. Like
that's why he got
a lot
drafted
of stuff
so high.
That's a lot of stuff you can work with if you're the Packers and Matt LaFleur.
And in that piece, when they talk about this, you know what they talk about? They talk about Matt LaFleur can coach him up and make him better.
Mm-hmm.
Matt LaFleur can make him a serviceable quarterback in the National Football League. Matt LaFleur is getting so much praise around the world because of that Malik Willis development. Again, no matter what happens with Malik Willis, he can suck in Miami. Then you're like, well, he doesn't have Matt LaFleur anymore. And if he's awesome in Miami, Matt LaFleur, quarterback genius. Matt LaFleur does not lose in this situation, nor does Malik Willis. He got paid. Coming up next, Green and Gold update time. We'll hear from Packers GM Brian Gutekunst, who addressed a lot of different topics earlier today. We talked about a couple of them involving cornerback and offensive line to start off the show in the 2 o'clock hour. We'll jump into some of the other things that he said. Plus, Jeff Rieger of The Ticket comes up at 4:20. It's Wisconsin Sports Daily, live from the Wisconsin Sports Radio Network studios, powered by the Potawatomi Sportsbook. Sparky with you.
Some shows talk about one team. Other shows barely talk sports. This show will talk Packers, Brewers, and Bucks. Every day. It's Wisconsin Sports Daily with Steve Sparky Pfeiffer on the Wisconsin Sports Radio Network.
It is time again. How we doing? 4 o'clock hour on a Tuesday. Thank you for listening. Don't forget Inside Wisconsin Sports tomorrow morning, 6 to 9. They got Wayne Larrivee coming up on that show on Thursday. Bill Huber coming up on that show on Friday morning. They get all the big name guests over there on that Inside Wisconsin Sports show with Trevor and Josh, I should say. Then 9 to noon with John Kuhn, Rami Makloff tomorrow, and then noon to 2. Will be the Mason Crosby Show with Mitch Thunder Nellis at 1 o'clock. Kurt Hogue, Brewers beat writer, talking more about that Bryce Terang article that we talked about in the 3 o'clock hour. He'll join them at 1. May want to set a calendar reminder for yourself for that one. And then from 2 until 5, right back at it again tomorrow is Wisconsin Sports Daily, except we're not on until 5 o'clock tomorrow because tomorrow is an early game. So we will be off the air at either 3 o'clock or when the Brewers game ends, if the Brewers game ends early, for the Potawatomi post-game show with Tim Allen, Tommy Wirtz, which, of course, after the last pitch, you always make the switch, including tonight after game 1 between the Brewers and Tigers. First pitch for that one at 5:40, and that's why the leadoff show starts today at 4:30 and replaces us with Tommy Wirtz. Get you ready for the game. Hear from Pat Murphy, starting lineups, all that fun stuff. So with all that now being updated, you know the schedule, you know what's going on. Let's go.
It's time for your green and gold update on Wisconsin Sports Daily, powered by the Potawatomi Sportsbook on the Wisconsin Sports Radio Network with Steve Sparky Pfeiffer.
All right, let's get to Brian Gutekunst, who did his normal draft press conference prior to the draft. I believe all GMs are required to do this across football. And this is Goody talking about Lucas Van Ness's fifth-year option that they have to make a decision on before, I believe it's May 1st, of whether or not they're picking up his option. Now, you tell me how confident Mr. Gutekunst sounds about this.
We're working through that. I think it's May 1st. We got to do that, so we'll do that in the appropriate time. I haven't talked to him about it yet. Just got here yesterday, so that's it.
You know what that means?
What's that?
We ain't picking it up, but I haven't told him yet, so we got to talk to him. And then you'll find out when it comes out, but we're not going to talk about it because I haven't talked to him. I was listening to Tommy Wirtz play this earlier in the Mason Crosby show, and they were debating, what all that means one way or the other. And Crosby's like, that doesn't sound very confident to me. What does it matter? You don't have to talk to the player. Just make up your mind. Yeah, but if you're not picking it up, you probably do want to talk to the player, would be my guess. Maybe I'm wrong. Maybe they're going to tell him they are picking up his fifth-year option. They want to see his excitement and exuberation about staying here for another year.
Yeah, maybe they're just not sure. It's a last-second type of thing. They're still making some decisions about
Remember,
it.
they didn't pick up Quay Walker's.
No,
and everybody was like, maybe they're going to work on an extension for him, and that's why they didn't pick it up. No. And see ya. Bye-bye.
But they picked up Devontae Wyatt. And they said they're going to work an extension, and there's no extension yet. So
no, but they did go get Hargrave to put next to Wyatt, and Goody talked about that.
I think he can do that. I think he's really versatile. He's one of those guys who can kind of play up and down the line along with D. Wyatt. Those guys are going to play a lot of snaps for us, God willing. And they can do a lot of different things. And I like to be versatile that way. But I do think there's probably a little bit more probably appetite for a pure nose, because some of the snaps we're going to play are going to have that, maybe we wouldn't have had that with Jeff. So again, I think we have a lot of guys in house that we're pretty excited about, Stackhouse, Ford, Brinson, that have that kind of size that can do some of those things. But Hargrave and Wyatt are so versatile. They're able to kind of go up and down the line of scrimmage, which is nice.
Can we stop talking about Jonathan Ford, please? We don't need to do that. Okay. So we don't. Stackhouse had that opportunity last year. Didn't do much with it. Now, young player, maybe he's better this year. We'll see. Brinson doesn't seem big enough. Maybe I'm wrong. Maybe I'm misremembering how big he is, but he didn't seem big enough to me to handle that. So for me, I loved the comment about, we're going to go get a real nose tackle, somebody that can stop the run. That's a big, wide body. That's what I've been asking for like multiple years. So if that's part of what they're going to do here in the draft, you're going to get me a corner and a big dude to play on the defensive line in rounds 2 and 3, and I don't care in what order they go, I'm going to be very, very happy by the time we're done with that draft show brought to you by Seam Fitters Local 601 coming up on Thursday night. Charlie and myself hosting from 6 to about 9:30 or so. I'll be ecstatic, Charlie, if they get out of day 2 with a nose tackle, big wide body guy, and a corner.
That'd be awesome. That's the dream. And maybe even getting back into the 3rd round or something and getting another player that way too. I think there's a lot of opportunity for this Packers team to just really nail this draft with how many guys are, again, at those key positions that are going to be at the 2nd and 3rd round for you. I think it's going to be hard to mess it up. I think if you go out there and get that cornerback, get that big defensive tackle, not only do you take pressure off of Micah Parsons a little bit because he just had the whole world on his back last season, and you saw that it resulted in him burning out at a point in the year. And then you see the cornerback room and how much they struggled after he goes down with the season-ending injury, and it's just so obvious. Go and attack those 2 spots that are there and ready to be attacked.
Have to do it. I wonder if they regret letting Slayton go.
Nah, I don't think so.
He's a big dude, man.
Yeah, but he was just a big dude.
I know, but that's all they need is just a big dude.
I think you want a big dude that has potential.
No, I don't need a pass rusher in the middle. No.
Not saying a pass rusher, but you can have a guy that can be like a Dexter Lawrence who can eat up runs
only
too.
Dexter Lawrence? Only as good as Dexter Lawrence.
I'm not saying only as good as Dexter. I'm saying who has
in the
potential.
2nd or 3rd round.
You could find potential in those rounds too. Again, you talked about David Bakhtiari and the type of jump he took. Yeah. You can find that. I'm saying there's other tools you can look for in those players besides just being a big dude.
Sure. Absolutely there are. I'm just telling you, I'm simple in my request. I want a big wide body that can take up 2 guys and reach out an arm and grab somebody running by. That's all I'm looking for. Just move 2 or 3 guys backwards towards the center, towards the quarterback, collapse the pocket a little bit, and let everybody get upfield and keep my linebackers clean of offensive linemen.
That's more than just being a big dude.
But that's what I want. That's all I want. He doesn't have to get 6 sacks a year. He doesn't have to have 40 pressures. I don't need any of those quarterback-driven stats. I just need run, stuffing, moving guys, keeping guys off my linebackers behind them. That's what I want.
The Bears had Andrew Billings last year at nose tackle. He was grade-wise and vision-wise one of the worst players in all of football, and he was just a big dude. Again, you want more than just a big dude. What you described is more than just a big guy.
Well, that's what I want. So I was specific in what I want. So there you go. So if this doesn't work out in the fall, Charlie me like, he's not doing what you want him to do. Fair enough, and that's fine. But that's what I'm looking for. Now, Goody answers the same question every freaking year. Ted Thompson answered the same question every freaking year. And you want to know something else? Every general manager in football, I would guess, answers this question every year at their press conference. What do you think the question is? Every year, every GM in football will answer this at least once.
I mean, he answered a lot of just the basic questions.
This is the same question every year. Need versus best player available. Yeah. What do you do? Every GM gets that in football every year. Everyone. Every year, same question. Same beat guy, same everything. Always asking the same question. This question specifically. Here's Goody again.
Yeah, probably a lot of it is the expectations you guys put on those guys at the top, right? You know, that's probably a little bit more of it than anything. But I give my scouting staff a ton of credit. I mean, those guys, they do an amazing job at kind of finding the factors that matter to us. With those kind of guys, with those kind of players. And I think that's probably, if I had anything to pinpoint on that, it would be that. But I do think sometimes, a guy, 2 guys who are equal in production and equal in their careers, if one was drafted in the 4th round and one was drafted in the 1st round, there's a different level of they both had good careers, but there's a different level of how it's looked at outside of here.
That clip is not what that clip says it is. Can I just point that out for a second?
Yeah.
That clip is labeled as Goody on weighing positional need versus best player available. That has said nothing about what Goody just talked about. That was not even close to what Goody talked about. Now, to what he talked about, and this is why I should play before I play it on the radio, so that was my fault, amateur hour. But to what he said, of course there's going to be more pressure on a guy taken in the 1st round versus a guy in the 4th round. Absolutely. If Matthew Golden was taken in the 5th round last year, nobody would be worried about Matthew Golden right now. Yeah, it's fine. It's good enough. Whatever. No big deal. But you take Matthew Golden in the 1st round, and it's the weight of the world on him. I had a guy said to me, what was it? A couple of days ago? a couple days ago, said, hey, there won't be any busts in this year's draft for the Packers. I was like, what? What do you mean? Well, they don't have a first-round pick. There's not going to be any busts in this year's draft. Because how many times do you, I know what happens, but very rarely do you hear a third-rounder called a bust by a fan. Yeah. Very rarely.
But you still,
what a bust of a third-round pick. It never happens.
But if that's the first pick of the team in that draft, I think a lot more fans are likely to do that.
So you think the second-round pick will get treated like a first-round pick this year by the fans?
If it has some kind of hype around him, like Malik Willis got called a bust for a little while by Titans fans, and he was a second-round pick. Like, that's a guy that is in that realm. If you have hype surrounding you, no matter where you're drafted, you can get called a bust, I think, to some degree.
He is Charlie Usen, Steve Sparky, 5 with you, Wisconsin Sports Daily, Green and Gold update. We'll get to Jeff Rieger, 97-1 the ticket in Detroit, talk about the Lions draft needs and his thoughts on the Tigers as the Brewers get ready to take on the Tigers coming up. And I really am interested in getting his thoughts on the Lions, if we're being honest about it. Another one interesting by Goody here. Talking about what's different about the NFL draft.
Well, that's a good question. I'd like to think we evolve and that we're constantly kind of chasing ways to get better. We very much believe in our process and in the foundational principles of our process that puts us in position to compete for championships year in and year out. Again, we're not overhauling things and changing the way we go about things, but we do try to get better each and every year. Adapt with what's going on in the National Football League in the game. And just tweak things. Certainly, from when I started, the technology and the efficiency of some of the things we do has significantly changed. But the core principles of how we look at building a football team probably are very, very similar.
I'm telling you, Jordan Rodriguez, great article today. I mentioned it earlier in The Athletic, a great piece talking about the Denver Broncos and their very highly sophisticated system that they've put together to make life just so much easier for their scouts, for their front office, all of that. So, like, what they have put together is if you go click on a player, it gives you all the medicals. It gives you all the scouting reports all there in one place. It has all the clips cut up, right? So let's say you're looking at a wide receiver and you want to see only this route run. It's already clipped and already there. And you want to see him against man-on-man coverage. It's already clipped. It's already there. You don't have to go hunting and finding in all these different areas. A lot of teams use different apps for different things. It's not all centralized on one thing. The Broncos have it so sophisticated. I can't remember the guy's name, but he got there like 10 years ago. He's like 50 now. And he has built this thing over the course of time to be this absolute juggernaut system that they've put in place. And there are other systems like it. Like the Rams created a system. And that guy that helped create that left, and now he's brought it to Jacksonville where they're running that system. Nowhere in the piece in The Athletic does it talk about what the Packers use specifically. They didn't go team by team and tell everybody who does what. If I was a betting man, I would guess that the Bengals are the farthest behind technology-wise on everything. That would be my guess because they've always been the farthest behind on everything technology-wise for as long as I can remember. Like they've employed the fewest scouts forever. And like everything they have, it's always been the cheap route with the Brown family in Cincinnati.
Well, and going last season, you saw with their first-round pick, Shamar Stewart, and why they weren't able to sign him and get him on a long or any kind of contract really for a majority of the season. And then the way that they just go about their team building, it's get wide receivers, get the quarterback, and that's it. That's all we really care about. We'll figure it out beyond there. We'll get guys to come here still or stay here for a little while at least, and we'll make it work. We'll stay competitive. That's all they ever do. It's kind of weird that they don't just adapt with the rest of these teams when they do have a lot of really good talent on that team.
Correct. And that's the thing. We don't know what happens behind closed doors at Lambeau, right, in their front offices. And even if you did know, you still wouldn't know what happens in Miami, what happens with the Rams, what happens with the Niners. You, as a fan, could walk in and be like, yeah, this is cool. Like in that piece, they're like, man, back in the day, there used to be like magnets on a board and you'd move the players around with magnets on a board. Now it's a digital draft board. They just put it up on the screen and you can move players around and do all that digitally. And it's on everybody's laptops or whatever the case may be. You got all of that. So things have obviously changed over the course of time. But if you're in Green Bay, You're doing what you do, but you don't necessarily have it all down to a science what everybody else is doing, because everybody's always trying to take advantage of what they have, like the Brewers, right? Pitching lab. Oh man, how are they doing this? David Stearns leaves. You're like, oh, well, first one out of the house. Let's see if he can go duplicate this in New York. Hasn't happened yet. Hasn't been able to duplicate what they do in Milwaukee. So that's all part of it. And if you're Gutekunst, you need to make sure that your football side of things is staying in front of it. Now, that means more money spent on the infrastructure of it, or hiring developers, like software developers is what we're talking about. Having software developers on the payroll to make things easier, figure out the AI part of it, and do all of that to make life easier for you, Charlie.
Exactly. You have to find ways to make these things work for you and not, I guess, work with you and not for you in some sense, and find a way to utilize that to give you the best kind of outcomes while also still having the right team behind you to make sure those things come to fruition.
Don't forget, if you miss anything on today's show, text Sparky to the Nicolay Law Talking text line 414-677-1250 to get the link to today's show in podcast form. Again, text Sparky to the Nicolay Law Talking text line 414-677-1250 to get the link to today's show. Coming up next, Jeff Rieger, 97 won the ticket, does nights there on the ticket in Detroit. We'll talk a little bit about the Tigers as the Brewers and Tigers get ready to play today. And we're going to talk Lions draft and offseason for the Detroit Lions. Tomorrow, Charles, we're going to get into some guests from Chicago and Minnesota to talk Bears and Vikings. Wisconsin Sports Daily, live from the Wisconsin Sports Radio Network studios, powered by the Potawatomi Sportsbook. Sparky here. It's Wisconsin Sports Daily, live from the Wisconsin Sports Radio Network studios, powered by the Potawatomi Sportsbook. How y'all doing? Hope y'all are doing well. Leadoff show with Tommy Wirtz, a big old hunk of love coming up here in just a few minutes. Joining us now on the guest hotline to his pretty head right here on X and on YouTube as we stream live at WI Sports Radio. How are we doing, Mr. Jeff?
Sparky, I can't hear you.
You can't hear me. Put headphones on. You have headphones? No? Still can't hear me? All right, you're just going to have to call Rieger then if we're going to do this. We only got like 5 minutes, so it's not horrible necessarily one way or the other. So yeah, just call Rieger. He's in his car. It's not like he's going anywhere. He's just hanging out waiting for us. This is the thing. And I want to make sure to remind you of is we got our draft show coming up Friday night. Charlie Usen and myself will go over rounds 2 and 3. You can get all the analysis of both picks Friday night starting at 6 p.m. on the Green Bay Football postgame, or I should not say postgame show, draft show, brought to you by Steam Fitters Local 601, featuring Charlie Usen and myself coming up here on the Wisconsin Sports Radio Network. So should be a lot of fun coming up on Friday. Looking forward to that. Also, Charlie Usen, are you over there? Are you able to get a hold of him or no? Not yet. No. That's fine. We'll just get him on tomorrow. Okay. We only got 5 minutes left in the show. Just text him and ask him if he can do it tomorrow because we're going to be running out of time here anyhow. The starting lineups, I'm sure, are out at this point. Tommy Wirtz is standing over here waiting to come on the show. And I will briefly ask you, not about the starting lineups, I will briefly ask you, did you hear about our Bryce Terang or William Contreras? Who should they extend topic?
So I heard the 4 o'clock the 3 o'clock segment of it.
Right.
I didn't get to the 3:20.
Well, you can go through and look on the Talk and Text line.
Oh yeah, I saw it blew up.
It blew up.
It was amazing. I saw you had to go into another segment with it because of it. And
it's a great topic.
It's a great topic. It's a shame that we have to have it as a topic because, again, in a perfect world,
you sign both.
Both those men are Milwaukee Brewers for the rest of their careers.
Agreed. Yes.
Not just through, buying out a couple of free agent years. It is that these two men are both a member of the Milwaukee Brewers. Now, to your point of why William Contreras feels more important to you, I understand as well. The Brewers continue to not pay starting pitching, the top tier, and they want to develop and draft these guys and trade for prospects. And William Contreras, no doubt, has been unbelievable in the development of a lot of young pitchers. However, I just think Bryce Terang's an MVP candidate caliber player, and I don't know if I can say the same thing about William Contreras, and that's why I would elect that if there is a number that Bryce Terang would agree to be a member of the Milwaukee Brewers, I would rather give it to him than give it to William Contreras.
You heard the top of the 3 o'clock hour. We got into this and we looked at the numbers of the top second base.
Yeah.
And I think Bryce Terang can argue he belongs at or near the top of that number.
Correct.
Altuve is making $33 million a year this year.
Now, I also heard Charlie try to break down the catcher numbers to you, and you refused to take his answer.
So we looked at $17 million a year.
26
is what Cal Raleigh averages over the course of his contract. This year, he's making like 15 or 16.
Yeah, he signed that deal 1 year too early.
Correct. So Charlie pointed out, but coming up here later in the contract,
he's got 3 straight years.
Right, where he's going to make $25 million a year, which is great, but Contreras doesn't have his power numbers. Now, you could argue, is he better defensively? Is he a better caller of pitches? Is he a better pitch framer? Pitch framing no longer matters with ABS probably as much, but still, that's part of it. Does he throw out base runners as well? Like all of those arguments, I get it.
Mm-hmm.
But at the top of that catcher market right now, you're still talking somewhere around 17 to 20 million probably for William Contreras.
Yep.
At the top of that market for Bryce Terang, you're probably somewhere of 25 to 30 million dollars a year. If you continue to wait on Bryce Terang, who's got 3 years left after this year, you may be closer to 40 million by the time that deal is up.
I also think that, I don't know if you were talking about it on your show, if I heard it somewhere else, waiting on the proven talent at the major league level until the CBA is done seems like the smartest move possible. Maybe if you want to go out and sign your prospects up because you think they could be superstar deals that go around after and that's why you see the deals for Connor Griffin and McGonigal and, Cooper Pratt, all of those deals getting done. But if there is a scenario in which after maybe a salary cap comes in that
will not affect Milwaukee.
You think it's going to be too high of a number? It doesn't matter. The salary cap will be $500 million.
Brewers won't be close. Let's say they floor it at 140. Okay. That would still be 11 to 12 million short of where the Brewers are currently for a floor.
Okay.
And then let's say the salary cap is 250. And that's probably generous because it's probably going to be more than that.
I would still
There's
rather
no
pay.
chance they get to 250.
I would still rather pay Bryce Turang $30 million a year than William Contreras $20 million a year.
Who would you rather pay? Would you rather pay Madej $20 million a year or Turang $30 million a year?
If you can tell me that Jesus Madej doesn't get to see free agency ever and they give him a Bobby Witt Jr. deal.
Well, not ever. He's going to see free agency eventually.
After he's 35 years old.
No, it won't be that long.
Well, then
it'll be
then
like
no.
Churiel.
Then
it would be a Churiel
I would
deal.
rather Bryce Turang gets his deal that he retires a Brewer at the end of.
No, zero chance.
That's what I hope.
You want to give him like a 10-year deal?
Yep, I do.
Oh, hell no.
Yep, I would.
No.
10 years, 250 right now.
Oh, hell no.
Do it.
No.
I would.
No.
I would. Absolutely.
Okay,
He's a stud.
I'd say no. I'm sorry. I shouldn't be saying that. You could give him whatever you want.
You know, Bryce
I'm saying
Turang.
I would not.
19 games on base to start the season. The only members of the Milwaukee Brewers that have ever had a franchise streak longer to start a year. Ryan Braun in 2011. He won an MVP that year.
And was a PED guy.
1983, Robin Yount. 1991, Paul Molitor, widely considered the three best players in the organization's existence.
No, two of those are. The other one's a cheater. So that's not fair.
Okay.
So let's not jump.
You can put Braun third if you want on that list, but he's definitely in the top three.
Braun on any list. Okay, so either way, coming up next, it's the lead-off show with our guy over there, Tommy Ward. So don't forget, step up to the plate, take a shot at winning major prizes in the $300,000 Big League Series at Potawatomi Casino Hotel, Milwaukee, April through June. You can win a share of $300,000 in prizes. All monthly promo entries count towards the grand finale drawings on June 26th. Get triple the entries during Brewers home games and score one of 3 all-new Toyota vehicles. More info online, must be 21 and a rewards member to play, only at Potawatomi. Again, he's got 3 years left on his deal. We'll see. But imagine what that number looks like if he wins an MVP award now. Imagine what that number looks like at that point.
It's going to get into the Jose Altuve range where they waited too long, but they have the money because it's Houston to pay that guy.
I really don't think they have any intention of giving him an extension at all. I think they know how good the talent is coming behind him. They're convinced they're great, and they don't have a gap behind them. Outfielders, there's a gap in outfielders to a certain degree in this system, but there is not a gap on middle infielders at this point coming up.
No,
and they will be fine.
You can maybe turn some of those middle infielders into outfielders, and you do still have good outfielders. You have Braylon Payne, you have Josh Adamczewski. Both those guys look like studs, so you have still talent there too. This Brewers team is just so loaded for the next 20 years. It feels like.
It makes me feel good to hear a Cubs fan saying that. Charlie using over there. Steve Sparky Fiver here. Up next, a big old hunk of love. Tommy Words, here we go.